Welcome, everyone. And today we discuss Democrats' real agenda is anti God and reduced Black births. So, welcome, everyone. If you've been following President Trump's first 60 days in office, you will notice a continued pattern of objection by the Democrats. And it's always something weird and out from left field. And today I want to break down the history of the Democratic Party since the 1800s, leading up to the Civil War, and their continued agenda 150 years after slavery is ended. If you analyze the Democratic Party since its inception, first of all, the Democratic Party has always been the largest party. The Republicans were small, and it was difficult for Abraham Lincoln to win the presidency. One of the contentions at that time was the topic of slavery. And the Democrats demanded that slavery continue, and it did, but still it led to the Civil War. Now, the Republicans are not innocent in this because they really wanted slaves to be freed so that they can reduce the labor wages of people that worked in the North. Um, and after slavery ended, that's exactly what happened. African slaves migrated to the North and were employed, but within 20 years, what the Democrats did to thwart that is they opened up the floodgates for immigration. And that's what led to the Irish being allowed, and they used the excuse of the potato famine. They allowed Russians to come here, and that's how Russians and Germans, and that's how most Jewish people were able to migrate here to the Americas and ended up in New York. Remember, New York was a black city. The island of Manhattan was a black city. And then Irish immigrants, mainly men who were holdovers from the Civil War, in which the South hired Irish to fight for them. Okay. But both sides were hiring Irish immigrants for mercenaries for the Civil War. And at that time, because of the large slave population of Maryland and Mississippi, African people were 80% of the American population. And so what happened is that Africans, and if you go in the history books, especially the state of Georgia, you see where there was a time where 100% of the Georgia Senate, as well as members elected to Congress, were African. And that is what led up to Jim Crow segregation, because whites were trying to figure out how to overthrow this. And their solution was to institute Jim Crow segregation. And that occurred soon as the Union troops left the South. And that didn't stop until the 60s with the Civil Rights Movement. So now we fast forward today, and the Democratic Party now is responsible for using USAID to have mass vasectomies in Africa, as well as mastectomies, basically making the African women sterile. So now we understand that the Democratic agenda is still the Democratic agenda in the United States has always been to reduce the population of African people in America and globally. So the Democrats have always had an agenda during slavery and post-slavery to reduce the number of Black people on earth in America as well as in Africa. And what they're doing is paying for vasectomies for the African men and mastectomies, getting the women to have their tubes tied. That's what they do. If women don't want to have children, they have their tubes tied, and it makes them unable. Their fallopian tubes, they tie them up, and it makes them unable to become pregnant. And that is what USAID, like, what kind of agenda is that? In addition to that, during the Barack Obama administration, Barack Obama said specifically to the African nations that unless you accepted diversity, equity, inclusion, and transgenderism, you could not receive funding from the United States. And many of the African nations that are in particular predominantly Muslim said, well, keep your money. And so this is what we see the Democrats are using tens of millions and billions of dollars to do, is to go to South America, to the Hispanic population, which is extremely Catholic, and say to them, if you want to receive money from the United States, you have to accept transgenderism, you have to accept abortion, and you need to adopt these beliefs and policies that are ultimately anti-family. And they've done the same thing going to Africa, attempting to break up the African nuclear family by trying to fund women to be the dominant group in Africa, to try to turn it into a matriarch population. And that's what the Democrats have always done here in the United States. The Democrats have always worked since Willie Lynch in 1803. The Democratic agenda has always been to make the African American population a matriarch society where women dominate our society and our beliefs. And as you can see in the Democratic Party right now, the majority of the elected Democratic officials in Congress are Black women, and they support anti-family, transgenderism. 80% of the Black women in Congress are divorced. Okay, they may have children, but they're divorced, and they are anti-family. And this is what they're pushing, which is why African American men have moved over to the Republican Party. And that is why African American men that go to church do not support the feminist agenda, because you can see the feminist agenda even in church. If you go to a Baptist church, a Black Baptist church here in America, you'll notice all these Black women are in the choir, and all of them are obese, 250, 300 pounds. They have children. They're divorced. They're in every part of the church, but they don't have a man. So that is, and most of them are educated. And if you look at Howard University is focused on making the female population, the dominant population at Howard University, making the men, only accepting men if they're gay. And you see that on the Howard campus. And so this is the belief of feminism. Okay. And this is the Women's Studies Department promoting this anti-family, anti-male agenda, where now, and you see this, where women only want men for their sperm and paying child support. So when I lived in Washington, D.C., you walk through Safeway and you see two obese African-American women that are like 250 pounds plus. They have their children with them, but they're actually lovers. Okay. So you have these two women that have had children. Most of them have 2 or 3 children with them, and they've had children with men. And now they're collecting it's always different men, or in general, it's different men. And they're collecting child support for 2 to 3 men so they don't work. And now they are supporting one another like man and wife. It's the craziest. And these women don't go to church, but many of these women are starting to go to church. and bringing into the church their redefined family of females who are united as man and women, but they have children from different men that they collect money to support them in their existence. This is the most ridiculous thing that you're seeing. And this gives sociologists and psychologists a lot to study the evolution of families and the dysfunction of families. And you see this. And that's why I voted for Donald Trump in 2016, is because I moved to Washington, D.C. because I voted for Barack Obama. And one of Barack Obama's first executive orders was diversity, equity, inclusion, promoting transgenderism. And you notice that became his only thing he really did. And you could see that breaking down in his family. It's no surprise that Barack Obama and Michelle Obama live in different residences, and they're literally divorced. They just haven't announced it to the public, and they're living different lives. And there's a lot of rumors on social media that Barack Obama is dating Jennifer Aniston. And they've been seen all around, I don't know, I think it's New York. So they've already been seen together, spotted together as a couple. It's just a matter of time before this gets released to the public, and it won't be any surprise. But the fact that Barack Obama showed up to Jimmy Carter's funeral by himself without Michelle Obama, it was very well noted. And then when Barack Obama walked through the rotunda, the halls of the rotunda by himself without Michelle Obama, that made Michelle Obama look bad and very selfish. And that is what removed her from being the possible leader of the Democratic Party, because she's all about her agenda. Now, the rumors about the divorce are just going to continue to grow. And also about Barack Obama's supposed bisexual behavior. And then the rumors about Michelle Obama being a transgender are going to continue to grow, and they're not going to go away. So, and it was Joan Rivers who supposedly, she was the first person to publicly say that, and then she mysteriously died in an accident during plastic surgery. So that let the cat out the bag. These rumors will continue to grow. I believe that the economic plan that Trump has in mind is going to be released at the end of March. I think they're working on that. President Trump has already said that 80% of USAID will be cut, and then the remaining programs that are going to continue to receive funding are going to be moved under the Secretary of State. And that's going to give the Secretary of State a lot of power. Even more power than they previously had, but that still can go either way depending upon who you appoint as Secretary of State. I predict that that's going to backfire, because if you get a Jewish person as a Secretary of State, they're just going to take the majority of the money and fund Israel through USAID to continue to commit genocide against the Palestinian people. And I want to note right now, this is directly for Alan Dershowitz, that Alan Dershowitz has introduced a new term that he's invented and created, and it's called Palestinianism. There's no such thing as Palestinianism. Palestinianism is a term that Alan Dershowitz created to try to justify the annihilation and genocide against the Palestinian people. What there is no such thing of is there's no such thing as anti-Semitism, because when you say Semite, you're referring to anybody that's a descendant of the tribe of Shem, and that would include the Turkish people, the Persian people, the Lebanese, the Syrian, the Palestinian people. That also includes Ethiopians, because we Ethiopians are from the tribe of Ham and Shem. So this idea of anti-Semitism, this is a contrived, made-up word that really doesn't mean anything. And also Israel, there's no such thing as the state of Israel. There's never been a country or a state called Israel. There's never been a tribe called Israel. King David and King Solomon and King Saul, they were the kings of the tribe of Judah. And Judah was never referred to as Israel. That term has been falsely injected into the Bible and misinterpreted. And the whole concept of the state of Israel was created by Louis Rothschild, the French banker, Zionist banker. And they want to say that Louis Rothschild was Jewish, and he was not. He didn't practice Judaism. He was not a religious person, but he is the person that came up with this idea of the state of Israel and what should be the boundaries by taking the current state of Palestine and incorporating portions to make a rectangle by claiming portions of Egypt, Libya, and Syria. Now you have another Zionist, Benjamin Netanyahu, who is not religious. He's not Jewish, but he is the cheated, frauded president of Israel, and he wants to expand, and at the expense of destroying all these other people. And he can't do that unless he can get the United States to get involved physically by sending troops over. And what Donald Trump will not admit is that Joe Biden has already sent American troops to fight in Ukraine against Russia, as well as sent American troops to fight in Israel against the Syrians, Lebanese, and the Iranians. And I pledge allegiance to the United States of America. I do not pledge allegiance to Israel. Okay. And Israel is manipulating the United States. And as I leave, I want to leave you with this quote from the farewell address by President George Washington in 1792. And the quote, and I'm quoting him, is that it is our policy never to create permanent relationships with any outside or global entity. And this relationship since 1946 between the United States and Israel is obligating us to fight all of their wars, to fund them, and to support them in all of their endeavors. And we need to end that. President Trump needs to end dual Israeli-American citizenship. And that is the reason why Chuck Schumer and Bernie Sanders and other Israelis who are in the U.S. Congress have conflicted interests, and they continue to lobby for funding for the state of Israel, which is wrong. And I want this recorded now to be documented that we need to do that. And for President Trump to suggest the United States should go in and rebuild Palestine and build it up and make it a beautiful place is misplaced. That is not our job. And what it also does is it condones the genocide of the Palestinian people. And if that's the case, then Jewish people in the state of Israel can no longer throw out the Holocaust as their justification for why the world should feel sympathy for them and support them, when Benjamin Netanyahu's behavior is 3 times worse than Adolf Hitler's behavior ever was. And so they continue to promote this even within. And it's not only Alan Dershowitz, it's David Victor Hansen of Stanford University. He's promoting this agenda as well. And it's something that, and I respect both of those men, and I'm an Ethiopian Jew. I'm not Jewish. There is a difference between being a Jew and being Jewish. And we are genetically different people. Jewish people are not genetically Jews. And religiously, the Torah and the Talmud is different than the 5 books of Moses and what Jews practice and what was practiced during the time of the 12 tribes of Moses. And there's also another thing. There's no such thing as the 12 tribes of Israel. Israel is a nickname that Jacob gave to his favorite son, Joseph. Okay. And remember, when Jacob and his 11 sons migrated to Egypt to be with Joseph, his favorite, Jacob's favorite son, Joseph, that he nicknamed Israel. The 11 brothers brought their wives and all of their adult children to Egypt. And under Moses, you had all 12 tribes. So if there's 12 tribes, it's the 12 tribes of Jacob. Okay. Not okay. And let me get this straight. So, matter of fact, I want to get you guys here while I have you. So we can, in this, I'm using, this is the King James Version, but this is the Mormon Bible. And no, I'm not Mormon. Okay, I'm going to have to get the Catholic Bible. Let's see here. Okay, so this new Bible, this is the New American Bible that Catholics use. This is not a good Bible for index and reference. So that is one of the problems. That's one of my, it's very difficult in here to go through this. But I will come back. I want to pull this up for you guys. So I will leave right now, but I will be back shortly. And I will do a little, probably a 5-minute history lesson on where the name Israel comes from. With that, I'll be back. Take care. I love you all. Thank you for joining.